Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to cover 3 of my favorite neutral spine core strength exercises. First, let me say that we don't necessarily always need to be in a neutral spine all of the time. But depending on what your back situation or situations are, some spinal movements might cause you to have pain, and some might aggravate your condition for the longer term. So for example, those who have osteoporosis, where the bones become fragile, should avoid a lot of forward flexion, especially with a lot of kind of force or compression, because that can actually make our vertebral bodies fracture over time. Scoliosis, folks, we have already sideways shifts in our spine. We have rotation in our spine. So if we're not mindful about those activities, that can also make our progression, make our scoliosis progress. So today's exercises are going to focus on the 3 dimensions of our core. So the front, the sides, and the back. We're going to do 3 different exercises. The first one is heel taps. I'm going to teach you that one first to teach you how to brace your core. And we're going to do that for 10 reps per leg. That'll be 1 set. We're going to do 3 total sets. So you can always pause the recording. I'm not going to walk us through all 3 sets together. You can pause the recording, move at your own pace, and then press play again when you're ready. So let's get ourselves set up. We're going to come down onto our backs. Notice that I always move through my side to come down. It's just safer for the back that way. And then once you're here, you're going to notice what support you need. So my scoliosis friends might tend to bring some padding in under their concavity if being on their back is painful. If you've been working with me for a while and being on your back is not painful, then you might do the exact opposite and pad your curve to force the body to a derotated position. Other people, you might want a hand held under your whole low back if you have a hard time keeping your spine neutral when you're on your back. You might also want some head support. So ideally we want our neck to be neutral, our gaze straight up towards the sky. If you have a more rounded position through your upper back, you might end up looking something like this when you come down. So the shoulders are up and the gaze is kind of tipped back behind you a little bit. If that's you, maybe bring in a little blanket or something, just a little bit of head support to get yourself as close to neutral as you can and to have support for your head so you don't have to hold it up the whole time. We don't, however, give ourselves blanket support just because we're used to having a pillow, and we're using as little as possible. So sometimes I'll see clients prop their heads up just because it feels nice. But if you can imagine, if I were to take my position here from my hips to my head and stand upright, I'd basically be looking at the ground. And that's kind of a forward head placement position that we don't want to encourage to have in our body. Occasionally, people have other things going on, like they might have vertigo, dizziness, that kind of thing, or maybe acid reflux, where they can't be flat on the floor and they need a little bit of a lift under their head for that purpose. That's also okay. So use it if you need it. Don't use it if you don't need it, okay? And once you have yourself supported, we're gonna place our hands on our belly. Tune into the breath, maybe close your eyes. And we're gonna learn how to brace our core. So there's a lot of things that are said about core engagement in movement classes. I invite you to try your best to forget everything you've heard before today. We're going to just notice our breath, notice the rise and fall of the belly. And for some of us, that might be a big movement. For others of us, it might be a relatively small movement. And then we're all going to take a really big breath in together and imagine there's a birthday cake in front of our face and we're going to blow out like 100 candles. So take a big breath in, blow out candles. And then notice at the end of that exhale, before you really take a big breath in or before you relax, what happened to your core. So you should feel some muscles engaged in your core here, and you should still be in a neutral spine. So if blowing out birthday candles made you round your back down to the floor and kind of tilt the pelvis back, see if you can let that go. Let the pelvis stay exactly where it is. Let the back stay neutral. And that might be where your starting point is for today. Just learning how to engage your core without having to change the shape of your spine to do it. We're not trying to flatten the back down. We're not trying to pull the belly button back towards the spine. When we breathe out and we engage our core, we might actually feel the muscles actually kind of lift a tiny bit. This is not the same as a belly doming up, but when we engage a muscle, it does shorten and it becomes bulkier. Same thing happens in our core. So you might feel those muscles kind of poke up towards your fingers a little bit. Okay. So once that's going well for you, we're going to eventually get to our heel taps here. So we're going to keep the core braced, keep the back neutral. We're going to lift one foot from the ground, put it back down. Lift the other foot from the ground and put it back down. That was one rep. So we're going to do this 10 times. We have to move each leg for it to count as one rep. Okay? So I'm now starting rep number 3, and then number 4, 5, the whole time core is engaged, 6, 7, low back is neutral, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so that completes one set of heel taps. You can let your belly soften, take a few breaths, pause the recording if you need to, and you can do 2 more sets of that same exercise. So 3 sets total. For this one, you're gonna move each leg 10 times to count as a set. Okay? Exercise number 2, balancing table. So that last one we just did was more for the front of your core. This next one is gonna be more for the back of your core. So we're gonna set ourselves up on hands and knees. If your knees don't like hard surfaces, you could always bring a blanket in under the knees. We're gonna get a nice neutral spine here, gaze down towards the ground, core engaged, and then take one foot back. And we're gonna pay really good attention to where our pelvis is at the moment. We're gonna lift our back leg up, and then we're gonna bring the opposite arm forward. And we're gonna hold for 10 seconds. And then you can bring your hand down and you can bring your knee down. We're gonna do the other side. So some things to watch out for here. When you take your leg back, we're taking our left leg back this time, and we lift the leg up, we're gonna be careful that we don't lift the whole pelvis up. So we don't want that foot kind of coming out to the side. We don't want there to be a twist in the back. And we also don't want to come up so high that the low back then drops down towards the ground. So we're thinking steady and stable through the core. Come into it slowly, toes come back, lift. Nothing should change in the shape of your pelvis or the location of your pelvis. Opposite arm forward, hold for 10 seconds. And then come on down. Again, you can pause the recording if you need to. You're gonna come through your balancing table 3 times per side, holding for 10 seconds each time. Okay, our third exercise for today is side plank, working the sides of our core. This can be a tricky one, so you might have a block handy if side plank is challenging for you. There's approximately 100 different versions of side plank variations. So I'm gonna start with something somewhat in the middle. So we might start with our elbow on the floor, and we might start with knees bent. So as I set myself up here, I'm lining up my elbow and my knees, and my butt is actually back behind me a tiny bit. When I lift up, I'm gonna think about pulling my hips forward and up towards the sky. I'm gonna try to find a straight line from my nose to the center of my chest, to my pubic bone, right into the middle of my knees. I'm gonna hold here for 10 seconds, squeezing the glutes, keeping my supporting arm pushing down into the floor. I'm not counting time at the moment because I'm talking, so hopefully that's 10. And then we'll come down and we'll swap sides. So I'll give you another trick here on this other side. If you have a hard time lifting up into your side plank, you can bring a block out in front as a little helper. We're gonna set ourselves up the same way, elbow and knees in line, butt can start back a little bit, and then we're gonna use our top hand on our block to push down to help us lift. Once you're there, if you can, go ahead and take your hand off the block. Okay, straight line, nose, chest, pubic bone right between the knees. Hold for 10 seconds. Keep your supporting arm pushing down. And then when it's time to come on out, we're gonna let our butt come back and down. Okay, so you're gonna do that again 3 times each side, a total of 3 times, so 2 more times, 10 seconds per hold, and see how you feel. So 3 different exercises, 3 different sets through, and we got all 3 sides of our core.